Welcome back for week 9 of Audibles. I'm going to give you all starts of the week. Starting off with quarterback, I'm going to go with Joe Burrow this week against the Browns. They're playing at home. Browns are ranked 27th against quarterbacks so far this year, giving up an average of 20.8 points. Can't argue with that. And they've given up 7 passing TDs to only 3 interceptions so far. So that's looking good for Burrow. He's had at least 2 touchdowns in every single game this year. He's had 3 touchdowns in 4 of the 8 games this year. There's nothing not to like about Burrow this week.
Yeah, and they gave up quite a bit to the backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos on Thursday night, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So if he can do it, then Joe Burrow can light it up. I'm sure of that.
Well, the Browns are also 5th against running backs, and Joe Mixon has shown that his good games come when they're playing against terrible defenses. So they're going up against a pretty good D-line. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to be able to do anything, so it's going to be an all-out Joe Burrow game. So I'm going ride or die with Joe Burrow.
And speaking of terrible defenses, you know we like attacking this defense. I'm going with Tua against the Houston Texans. They're 25th against the quarterback. Ever since Tua came back from his injury, he's been pretty hot. The Bills kind of slowed him down, but he got a touchdown on the ground and through the air, so he's still a productive fantasy player. He scored 27 and 29 the 2 weeks before the Bills, so I look to him to have a really good game this week, at least 25 or more points, hopefully.
And it should be easy to do that with how many passing attempts they're giving them. It's not like they have a run game really to rely on too much, so he's always throwing around almost 40 passes a game, I think.
Yeah, the last 3 games has been over 39 passes, so definitely getting the volume for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we're running into our running back segment. Who you got?
This backfield's a little wishy-washy, but I'm going to go with Boston Scott. They're just solely because they're playing a terrible run defense. They're 30th. They're playing the Chargers, who are 30th against the run. He outplayed Kenny Gainwell, so he should be able to do that again this week. We did not see that coming at all. You know, our pick last week was Kenny Gainwell. He got outplayed. Boston Scott got 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, look out for Jordan Howard because he's a touchdown vulture, and he may be a decent start this week as well.
Be a little sneaky snort. But on top of that, though, if you're brave enough to touch that backfield, I mean, that's all. It's going to be on you. But obviously, they have a great matchup. But I'd be scared to touch that backfield.
That backfield. So
great matchup. It's just I don't know what Sirianni's doing over there coaching. I'm going to go over and I'm going to start with Josh Jacobs. That's going to be my start of the week, playing against the Giants. The Giants are bottom 10 versus running backs. They're averaging 26 points given up to that position. And you're averaging 4.5 yards per carry. That's great. Jacobs was in line for a great game last week before he was knocked out early to a chest contusion. Kenyon Drake filled in for him and also had a great game after he filled in for Jacobs when he left the game hurt. Kenyon Drake does take opportunities away, but not so much to where Jacobs not a viable option. As long as he's back, he's going to get 20-plus opportunities, and he's going to do really well with it.
Yeah, Jacobs should be getting the majority of the goal line work, too. That's what you want to see with the fantasy running backs. And doesn't look like the loss of John Gruden slowed the Raiders down a bit. They've been playing really well without him. So
not at all, though. You have Jacobs even coming out in an interview saying that the whole morale of the team's gone up since Gruden's left. So I like Jacobs. Everybody at the Raiders fan base loves Jacobs, and they're going to run through him.
All right, and for wide receiver this week, my pick's going to be Robert Woods. They're going against the Tennessee Titans, who's 32nd against the wide receivers. They've been giving up a ton of yards to the wide receivers. The last 4 weeks, they've given up 903 yards to the wide receivers and a crazy amount of red zone targets, 19 over the last 4 weeks. And Robert Woods does it on the ground and in the air. Last week, he got a touchdown on the ground and in the air, so he's very productive in the red zone. So
yeah, I love Robert Woods this week too. Like you said, over the last 4 weeks, they've given up 900 yards, which leads the NFL, and over the entire season so far, they've given up over 1,700 yards, which also leads the league. They're giving up on average of 47.5 points to the wide receiver position. All those points can't go to Cooper Kupp, who's been an absolute monster so far this year. And even without Derrick Henry, I think the Titans are still going to be able to keep the game relatively competitive. Hopefully they'll have Julio Jones back since they did lose Henry. They did just go out and sign Adrian Peterson, but Adrian Peterson is 36 years old. I don't know if he's going to boost that offense at all.
he's definitely not going to get the volume that Derrick Henry got, but he could keep him competitive. I mean,
Absolutely.
He's a all-time great. So
I mean, not only that, Vegas is still giving it a 54 over-under, which is going to be a high-scoring game with an implied point total for the Rams of 30 points. So I like to see Robert Woods getting at least one touchdown again this week.
All right, who you got at wide receiver this week?
I'm rolling with Brandon Cooks this week going up against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have been terrible against the run and the pass. Brandon Cooks is easily the best player on that team, at least as far as the offense goes. Dolphins are 31st against wide receivers, and they're giving up almost 44 points a week to that position as far as fantasy points goes. And I like seeing Brandon Cooks getting the majority of that. He's a great player, as we already said. And whenever you have a younger quarterback that's inexperienced, such as Davis Mills over there right now, they love to pick on their best player, and that's obviously Brandon Cooks.
I did hear a report that Tyrod Taylor might be coming back too, and if that's the case, then that would give him a huge boost.
Absolutely. We saw week one how great Brandon Cooks was week one with Tyrod. So
that's going to be two terrible defenses going at it and probably giving up quite a bit of points. So
might be one of those sneaky games where just a high-scoring game that you wouldn't expect.
Might be a good DFS stack too. So who you got at tight end this week?
I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki versus the Texans. As we just talked about, we got two bad defenses going at it, so it could be one of those sneaky games that have a high point total. Texans are 26 versus tight ends, giving up an average of 17 points to the position. And Gesicki has been lining up more at the wide receiver position than they've even been using him blocking. So they like having him out running routes. He's actually that team's leading receiver as well. Don't be scared of last week's performance against the Bills. He still put up a decent stat line. He didn't kill your team last week, but the Bills have been a solid defense, one of the tops. Absolutely. One of the top defenses so far this year. So I still like the leading receiver for the Dolphins going up against a terrible defense against tight ends.
And I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin going against the Baltimore Ravens. They're the worst team against tight ends. Conklin went 5 for 7 for 57 yards last game. He's been turned into a decent receiver. He's seen 5 or more targets for the last 5 games, so he looks like a top target over there in Minnesota and should produce if he keeps getting that volume.
Yeah, why not? And then hasn't the Ravens given up 4 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks to the position?
Yep.
So like his chances of getting in the red zone and the end zone as well.
All right, now getting into our bust alerts this week.
I'm going to go with D-Hop this week against the 49ers. I know everybody's going to be hard. You're not going to be able to bench D-Hop, but playing against a pretty good defense, you're going to have a hobbled Kyler Murray if he does play. Even if he doesn't play, then you're going to get somebody that most people doesn't even know is still in the league, and Colt McCoy as the backup. If Kyler Murray does play, he's going to be hobbled from that sprained ankle. He's not going to be able to run around and wait for receivers to get open. And they might even rely on the running game anyway, just so he doesn't have to run around on his ankle too much. So I'm going with D-Hop.
I got Alvin Kamara this week. From all reports, it looks like Taysom Hill is going to be the quarterback. He passed the concussion protocol, so if we see him, he's got opportunities to vulture touchdowns from Alvin Kamara. And the new running back in town, Mark Ingram, is also a touchdown vulture you got to watch out for. So
and Ingram looked great against a good run defense in Tampa. And last year when Taysom did play quarterback, he did vulture touchdowns away from him, and his production did go down. So I would temper my expectations. I wouldn't bench Alvin Kamara by no means. But
no, by no means bench him, but he might have a down week this week. Just be aware of that.
Absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it for our picks this week.
And don't forget that we're switching all of our DFS picks over to our Twitter handle. See that in the top right over there above my man Jared's head here. All of our DFS picks have been doing pretty well so far this year. So make sure you head over to our Twitter page and check them out, see if we can win you some money.